And now it's time for the sponsor perspective portion of our program. A quick clarification. While I am conducting this interview, and this content should be considered not editorial. And with that, I'm pleased to welcome Kathleen McLaughlin, Executive Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer at Walmart. And she's President of the Walmart Foundation. Kathleen, it's great to be with you. Let me just start out for a moment and say that Walmart, I know, has set out to call itself a regenerative organization, a regenerative company. What does that mean? What should our viewers know of that?
I would say that our commitment is to become a regenerative company. We wouldn't say we're there today. So it's an aspiration. And what we mean by that is going beyond what, because some people may have defined sustainability to date to be more holding things steady, keeping sustainable, minimizing impact. We want to go beyond that. And the notion is really at the heart of ESG, which is simply that for businesses to create value for shareholders and to fulfill their corporate purpose, they need to address the societal issues that are most relevant to the business, most relevant to stakeholders using the assets of business, whether it's products or services or the operating model, to address those issues in a way that also creates value for the company. And so whether the issue is climate or racial equity or ecosystems or even COVID, ESG simply means creating value for shareholders by addressing those issues in a way that advances the societal cause through business.
Well, let's do a little.
We would like to become a regenerative company. It means whether you're talking about social issues or environmental issues, the challenges we face as a society right now are such that holding steady isn't enough. We need to draw down emissions collectively in society. We need to restore nature. We need to create equity for all. And, you take something like racial equity in the United States, for example, we have systemic outcomes that work against, for example, Black people. So how do we address that in a way that elevates and restores people? So it's beyond just holding steady. It's regenerating, renewing, restoring. And so our commitment is to work with many others toward those outcomes.
So I'm a whiteboard guy, Kathleen. I like whiteboards. And then I would like, imagine, okay, let's break down ESG for our audience in real simple. So because you mentioned many things, but, there's an E, there's an S, there's a G. For you and your priorities, and you mentioned some of them, I want to make it more real for people. What would be in the E column? What would be in the S column? What would be and how are you delivering on those?
Yeah. So in the E column, it would include things like climate action. So the role that we can play in getting to zero emissions in our own operations and contributing to a net zero future in the world, in supply chains. So beyond even our own walls as a company, it would mean getting to a circular economy, zero waste, reusing materials, repurposing materials. It would mean, in terms of nature, as a retailer, we source a lot of products that come out of ecosystems, grasslands, agriculture, forests, oceans. It would mean working with suppliers and many others in supply chains to get to a point where we can decouple consumption and production of those products from impacts on ecosystems and even working to restore. So those would be some examples in the E column. In the S column, it would include things like economic opportunity for entry-level workers in workforce. The retail sector employs a lot of early-stage workers. How can we help people who are employed and working get access to training, career paths, opportunities to build new skills and to advance in their careers? Well, we can do that as an employer, and that can lead to outcomes around prosperity for people and paths up. Social issues in supply chains. So working with others to tackle issues that are quite embedded in systemic, like forced labor in seafood chains. Racial equity, using our assets as a company, whether it's our jobs or our purchase orders, our voice, to get at root drivers of systemic inequities in arenas like health outcomes, workforce outcomes, criminal justice reform, those kinds of things. So those would all be examples of S issues. And then in the G, it would be things like board governance, board diversity, those kinds of things that have been staples of board governance or governance, conversations for many years, ethics, compliance, and so on. But new things, digital citizenship, for example. What's our approach to privacy or cybersecurity? So for us, we have an array of issues that we have prioritized based on input from our stakeholders. And they're all areas where we're trying to lead through business to create shared value through our efforts. Meaning, when we tackle climate, when we tackle waste, if we're tackling workforce development, we're doing it in a way that strengthens our company and advances outcomes in society and does our part to rewire systems.
Kathleen, there's another dimension. I don't know if I want to get, how to get it. We didn't coordinate this, but I watch TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I see a lot of videos of Walmart staff that look like, they're happy. They're, finding, interesting things in there. But, in this time of pandemic, of high stress, I'm interested in whether we, as consumers at Walmart, your employees, whether the pandemic has changed us in some way to try better, to be human in different ways, if you will, or more empathy. Whether you think that is naive of me or whether you sort of sense that it's real, because I do sense that a lot more people are caring about this dynamic, even if they don't know which way to go. And I'm just being honest. I sort of see it sometimes in these TikTok videos of your Walmart staff, but please don't go after any of them because they're fun.
Well, I think the pandemic has taught us all globally, a couple things, and maybe these are silver linings from a really horrible situation that is ongoing. I just got off the phone with, what's happening in some of our other markets, Costa Rica, for example, South Africa. But one is that the challenges we face as a society are global. We're all interconnected. It's something like COVID affects us all. The climate crisis is another one that affects us all. So that's lesson one. Lesson two is many people making small changes can have a big impact on the outcomes. And so, if we just consider something like climate, we've been working at this really since 2005 as a company. But in 2016, we became the first retailer to set a science-based target for emissions reduction. And we've been at it since then. And that's in our own operations, but also in our supply chain. So what we've been trying to do on something like supply chain is create a global movement where our suppliers are working with us to draw down emissions across supply chains, whether you're talking energy, product design, agriculture, interaction with forests, waste management, food waste, packaging, and so on. And we now have over 3,000 suppliers that have been working on this with us. And to date, we've reported 375 million metric tons of emissions avoided on our way toward our target of 1 billion by 2030. And those are real changes in business, in the way food gets produced, in the way that apparel gets produced, the way it gets transported, the way it gets consumed, through the product design, the packaging design at end of life. And our goal is to try to make these products circular in nature, draw down emissions to get to net zero by 2050, along with the rest of the world, which is where we need to get, to be mindful of ecosystem impacts and actually work at source to restore and conserve. And then through product production and development, it advance prosperity for people, help people who are involved in producing products right the way through retail and beyond, to find joy in their work, to find purpose, economic prosperity, advancement, and so on. So that's what we're trying to do through business. And we believe that makes us a stronger company, as well as helps us do our part in accelerating the transformation of our systems for sustainability, for social justice, for economic prosperity.
That's powerful. I mean, I really enjoy these videos I've seen. You can kind of feel people's excitement about this. Let me ask you, a last question, which is trying to figure out how to get it out. I have often thought that companies with diverse boards, or companies with good governance, or companies that were moving in this right way are now becoming more and more rewarded by investors, and that profits are there, that's the way forward on this, and that ultimately those firms that take an enlightened ESG approach are going to do better than those firms that don't. So there's a kind of driver that ought to drive some people there. But I'm just wondering, you are a private company. You compete with other companies. What is the dynamic between collaborating with other companies on this agenda and competing with other companies, on value creation, et cetera, in the ESG space? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. So, our philosophy at Walmart is that to create value as a company and to sustain our business for the long term, the only way we do that is by delivering something to our customers that they value and that they need and want. And that we respond to the issues that customers, associates, suppliers, communities, governments, civil society, even the planet, the issues that are out there that affect our ability to satisfy needs, to be a good employer, all of those things. And so for us, running a good business and addressing the relevant environmental, social, governance issues, those go hand in hand. We can't really separate those. And that's what we call shared value. We do that through our business. And so, Walmart, we're becoming an omni-channel company. You can order things to deliver to your home, or you can come shopping in the store, or we'll deliver things from the store to your home, or what have you. And there's a lot of what we're offering in terms of products and services and so on that is competitive. We want to be first in mind with our customers and so on. Yet the issues we're talking about, climate, racial equity, equity in general, ecosystem restoration, these are all issues that also have to do with the systems that all of us rely on. And the challenges in these systems are big enough that no one firm, no one sector even is going to address these challenges. So a lot of what we are working on when it comes to drawing down emissions or tackling systemic racism in our society, the changes that we're trying to make in concert with others are pretty competitive. They're things that are going to just bolster the underlying systems that all of us need to rely on. They certainly will be important for our business success, but it's not competitive. As you say, if we can advance racial equity in this country, that's going to benefit everyone. Now, we also think that we have a good strategy, and we're excited about it, to attract talent of all backgrounds and all forms of diversity, and to help people develop and thrive and stay with Walmart and so on. And we think that will give us an advantage too. So it's a bit of both. There are things we're doing that we think will strengthen equity in communities in general, and then there are approaches we're taking to our own attracting and development of talent that we think have people excited working for Walmart. So it's both, and that's really what helps fuel all of this. Is there are business reasons and there are societal reasons to move forward on these agendas.
Well, I know, and I'll tell this to the audience, I know that you're stepping forward. I know that you filed letters with the SEC. I know that you're doing things today you wouldn't have done 5 years ago, if I can be so bold, that you see these shifts and that they're very real. Am I wrong?
I would say business in general has recognized the intersection of environmental, social, governance issues. If it used to be thought of as some of it as corporate social responsibility, the moral thing to do, the nice thing to do, people now realize, yeah, all that's still true, of course. And this is the way you create value. Right. And I just see that even in engaging with investors. There was a time 5, 6, 7 years ago, investors would come to see us and then they'd say, next week, Sally from our ESG team may give you a call. Totally separate. Now people come in as an integrated agenda, right? They want to know, what's your climate risk strategy? How are you tackling that? What are you doing around workforce development? This is all part of our business. It just makes good business sense. And that's been the shift, I would say, beginning to happen in capital markets. You're seeing it more and more. And there is an evolution going on around the standards that are out there to measure and disclose progress on environmental, social governance issues. We need that. We need the good standards. We need systematic frameworks that tie to value creation and provide some guidance to companies around disclosures and so on. So, we're big fans of what we see happening with TCFD and SASB and so on. And, that's going to be helpful because it really, provides great guidance for companies on what to focus on in the disclosures.
Well, Kathleen McLaughlin, I hope you'll come back a lot and talk about these issues with us, because I think there's going to be an ongoing, growing franchise of conversation and policy. Kathleen McLaughlin is Executive Vice President, Chief Sustainability Officer of Walmart, President of the Walmart Foundation. Thank you for supporting today's conversations, and thank you for being so cool with my questions.
Absolutely. It's a critical conversation. Thanks for having me, and excited to listen to the rest of the day.